approximately equal to the single finger float to the left on the screen. And then here's just some approvals. This is a Coastal Commission approval from 2001, Army Corps approval from 2000, and a Water Board approval from 2000, all demonstrating that this pier was permitted to its existing length. So we're very clear on that. There's no discrepancy there, and everything matches. The proposed configuration is shown superimposed on an aerial on the screen, and you can see that the right finger, or the west finger, is proposed to extend 18 feet. The next slides will show that in detail. And the middle finger is proposed to extend out the same length at 18 feet. The approximate distance from the proposed float to the bulkhead line is 85 feet. And the reason why I put that marker in there is because I think it would help. I was anticipating a question on how this could or could not affect ingress and egress for the slip, 2 slips over on the westward 2 slips by that pier that is way out there, and it faces east. So there is a lot of room between the proposed configuration and the bulkhead line. I will go to the next slide. So this is a better diagram that shows the dimensions, but the next slide really shows the red focuses on what the existing float looks like. So that's red is current existing. Blue is what is proposed. So you can tell that the blue slip float is being the inside width of that float is widening by 6 feet to 18 feet, and the length of both of those fingers is increasing by 18 feet, coincidentally, for a total of about 61 feet. I'll reemphasize that the property lines extend parallel as shown on this diagram and all the other diagrams before, but I think I will reemphasize that's very important for this part of the harbor, because it emphasizes that there should not be additional conflict from the proposed project. The applicant is proposing to berth a vessel that is 60 feet long, and the applicant has confirmed that there is adequate depth for the vessel that he is proposing. So the inside length of the slip, the outside length of the slip is 60 feet. So the vessel, just by the very nature of it, would potentially overhang slightly, I'm guessing by the equivalent of a swim step or so, but nevertheless, it would be 97, 98% within the slip. This just shows the notice of public hearing that was sent out to all folks within a 300-foot radius. The reason why it looks this way on the screen is because per the municipal code, they have to ignore the water when we figure out what that 300-foot radius is. So the folks way over on the peninsula were noticed on something that is a distant view from their window. But that's how we have to do it. As included with the proposed resolution are special conditions. Those special conditions are also a part of the approval in concept. And so I've provided a copy of these special conditions, and most of the 12 are boilerplate that we generally include for our conditions. But in this case, 8, 9, and 10 are specific to this property, and they're standard. There's nothing unusual about those conditions. They do state that vessels may extend beyond the end of the fingers by their beam width. Now that's an existing harbor code rule that, that we have. And then we always talk about side property lines, which I've discussed a few times this evening. And vessels may not extend beyond or encroach over the side property line. So the applicant needs to know where their property lines are and how big of a boat with fenders that space can accommodate. In this particular proposal, the proposal is 6 feet wide on the west side. We know that Duffys are not 6 feet wide; they're at least 8 feet wide. So even a Duffy couldn't fit in that westward side tie. So it has to be a fairly small vessel, in my opinion, to accommodate that. Lastly, I will say that's the conclusion of my presentation, but the Harbor Commission does have choices. They may approve or conditionally approve the project, or they can deny the project. If you approve the project, I have a resolution, and it can be signed after this meeting or as soon as the commissioners are able to. If the commission does conditionally approve the project and add something or subtract something that is different than in the special conditions or elsewhere, the commission needs to be extremely specific on their request and their verbiage, very specific, so that the record can reflect that. And if that occurs, and if it's I'll say it, if it's an easy one, then the Harbor Commission can approve the resolution, assuming that those corrections, those verbal corrections, and then I'll catch up and adjust the resolution and get it for your signatures, and the applicant can have the approval. If the Harbor Commission does something that has a complex adjustment, or if they deny it, or something else happens in your deliberations, then we would need to come back to the June meeting and present a new resolution, an updated resolution that would reflect whatever you decide. So I probably complicated that too much, but if it's easy, we can do it tonight. If it becomes complicated and we need to redo the resolution, we'll have to come back at a later date.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Before I open up to the commission, I would like to offer the applicant an opportunity if there's anything you'd like to say or present.
Thank you. My name is Pete Swift, and I'm representing Gary Smith and his wife. He felt it was important enough to come tonight. He's right back there to answer any questions. Like Chris stated very well, the key factors here, if we could put that one slide up of the aerial, just think that that's the most important thing. What I worry about sometimes is that it's going to start a landslide of people coming, a big land rush, everybody wanting to jump and do it. But if you look at how many lots are with converging property lines, that very few people, if any, have that option. There's one that gets wider, but most of them, if not all of them, are declining as they go out. So I don't think we have a problem with that, although I would love it if everybody wanted to. But anyways, so we're way behind the pier head line. I just wanted to say that again. We are within the property lines, including the setbacks, because the lines are parallel. There's no real string line or line of dock projection out there, so we wouldn't be interfering or sticking out further than anyone else. I studied coming into the channel and seeing what the impact would be, and it doesn't alter your way in or out because of that one dock out there that's it's almost at the pier head line there. And the questions that we're posed with are like design and size are compatible with allowable uses, the dock modification is physically suitable, operation and use of the modification won't alter public convenience or safety, the the dock modification is designed so it won't obstruct public access or public use. There are no negative impacts to the neighbor's views, navigation, or future dredging. So it kind of checks all the boxes, and that's it. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions to either the staff or the applicant?
Yes.
The Commissioner Swerchek.
I guess with the extension of the middle finger, I assume the neighbor could go out the beam of the boat further out from the center finger. Correct.
That is correct. We always measure by the longest of the two fingers, so that's a good observation.
And then, I know you made your notification around, but since this is a shared dock, has the neighbor acknowledged the change and they're okay with it?
Yes.
Yes, they have signed, they've signed off on the diagram.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams?
No.
Commissioner Scott?
What is the beam of the 60-foot boat that's going in there?
Just a little over 16 feet.
16, okay,
So there'll be plenty of room, so it won't hit the sides.
okay. And Pete, the securing of the dock, I mean, that's a tough area there in the south swell. Do you feel good about the sufficient pylons and such to withstand, pretty good south swell?
Yeah, we have a pretty strict engineer, and he's gonna double check it, but yes, we feel, and there'll be times where that boat may have to be moved when they're in a big storm situation.
And Chris, in the reach out to the neighbors and for public comment, did anything negative come back?
Nothing did come back. I received one question, which I easily answered, but there were no comments, and I just checked my phone for voice messages and didn't have any as well.
So outside of even outside of the scope of the homes that you sent the letters to, you haven't heard anything outside of that also?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Marston?
Thank you, Chris. I do have a few questions. I didn't catch where you said a Duffy couldn't fit.
Well, that was my narrative. I was making an example of if they were to side tie. Do you see where the arrow is, where it says proposed project? On that side of the float,
Okay.
the projection, you can't see it on this property line right there. You don't see the property line on this particular.
Okay. Are they allowed a side tie, or is it only in the U?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You're allowed to use all of your water space, except that you cannot encroach upon or over the property lines. I was just pointing out that in the proposed reconfiguration, there's 6 feet of play.
Okay.
And 5 feet is the requirement. There's 6 feet, and I was just drawing a comparison with the Duffy boat.
So then, for the other side, 2223 Bayside Drive, if they were in the future to add a dock, would their navigational ability be impaired because of this at all?
I'll go back so I can make sure we're talking about, okay. 2223.
It really has no impact. If you look at the aerial, and see that corridor going all the way out, really doesn't impact anyone.
That's why I extended the blue property lines to demonstrate that in this dock is fortunate for them, has 2 property lines that are parallel to one another.
Right, but 2223 doesn't have a dock. So if they added one,
2223 could, in theory, I think they've actually, I'm not sure if they've approached us before in the past, but indeed, if they wanted a dock, we'd have to go through a typical hearing, just like we're doing now, because it'd be a new dock.
yeah, I'm just wondering how it would fit with that, if there would be an issue.
It might be an issue because the dock next to that appears to be right on the property line. So it would be a tight fit, but, you know, that's not the subject matter of today's discussion, whether or not there could be a pier and dock at 2223. That would be a separate, totally separate action to deal with and figure out later. One of the points that I didn't make is that the pier and the proposed pier and float conforms to our harbor design criteria. So they're building it to code. The only reason why we're here today is because the municipal code dictates that when there are docks that exceed their current permitted length, it automatically triggers a public hearing.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Young?
On a similar matter, if it extends beyond the length, that's required to have Harbor Commission weigh in. What about the square footages if the dock, the float actually expands in square footage? Like I noticed this is a slight increase, not much. Where does that weigh in on our evaluation?
It does not weigh in. The only portion, so it does not weigh in on 80% of the harbor. The other 20% I'll just label as Balboa Island. That's the only part of our harbor where we do pay attention to square footage. But other parts of the harbor, it's completely up to the applicant. Where the applicant faces a challenge, which is outside of our purviews with the regulatory agencies. That's something else. But as far as the city's concerned, we don't have any limitations for square footage outside of Balboa Island.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Swift. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
I just had one question. Is there a current 6-foot beam limitation on the west side of the current dock, or is that so far inside of that measurement that you don't have to worry about it? I looked through the old documents and I couldn't see where we put that beam limitation on it.
Yes. Okay, I can answer that in 2 ways. On the screen is the original configuration with the red float. And the red float, it's not shown, but it's somewhere on the order of 6 plus 4. It's probably 11 or 12 feet from the property line. So currently, it has the overall limitation, the overriding limitation is you cannot cross over the property lines. The note for specifics is more of a clarifying to that overall rule of just you can't cross over the property lines. And then to answer your question about you not seeing that in previous approvals, we only started doing that. I started doing that in 2003. We didn't talk about that in other approvals for decades prior. So that's a new one. Well,
Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Young, do you have any
Just a quick clarifier, in our revisions of Title 17, I believe we had an item that mentioned your outreach efforts to the buffer zone that would not be required to go across the harbor onto the other side of the bay. And I noticed that in this instance, you're showing that. Have we started, is that gone into effect, or are we still doing it? Notices in that?
The change in legislation that you're referring to has not yet made its way to the City Council for approval. It is tentatively scheduled for first review on June 9th.
Great, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Can you bring up that aerial view again?
the one that we were looking at earlier,
Yes.
I think it's that one.
So I have a question actually for the applicant. So I don't know if Pete, if you want to address it, but it is a 60-foot vessel that's going in there, correct?
Yes.
And just looking at, it's at 18 feet, it's a pretty significant extension, and I have no problem based upon personally what I'm looking at. But you've got that one configuration, a little bit strange off to the west there. And I don't know what size vessels go in and out of there, but I'm just wondering what would happen with an 18-foot beam boat. You can wind up with a almost 80-foot long vessel in there, and how far that would stick out, just based upon the current code, if I understand, which I understand it to be. So I'm wondering if the applicant might be okay if we limited how far a vessel could extend beyond this new float, say 5 feet, something like that, just so to make an assurance that a very large vessel wouldn't go in there and kind of stick way out and potentially impede upon other dock owners.
Well, I'll ask him. But what the issue there is the 80-foot boat would be too wide to fit into that slip, because we're always worried about the width. So,
There are
If we
some
had 18 feet.
75, 80 footers that are
that are 16 foot?
18, pretty
Yeah, well,
close.
that's what we've got is 18, so we just shoehorn it in,
It
so
would.
I don't know. I can ask him real quickly if he'd be,
Yeah, I would be curious to know if Mr. Smith wouldn't mind answering that.
Hi, my name is Gary Smith. The boat we're looking at is approximately 57 feet long, and it's a little over 16 feet wide, so we could extend technically another 8 feet out, which we have no intention of doing. That's why we wanted to slip at 57 feet, so we can keep the boat within the slip. If you wanted to limit the amount that a future boat could stick out, I don't think I really have a problem with that.
So if we were to approve it and say 5 feet, so that way, if you got a swim step plus a little, you want it to stick out, it's not a problem. We don't want to create an enforcement issue for anyone. Just want to kind of potentially, and it's not up to me, it's the commission, maybe it'll be as is, but I think if it's okay.
How about 8, which would bring it out to 65 feet total for a future boat?
Thanks, Pete. I'm okay with that, actually. So, but the rest of the commissioners would have to kind of, I'd open it up for anybody that wants to comment on it or ask any additional questions, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Commissioner
Just,
Scott.
Harbor Master Blank, do you have any issue with the west side of the dock at 6 feet and with the condition of it being 6 feet, that's going to be a future problem where people don't follow the rules? I'm not suggesting that Mr. Smith isn't, but we have a lot of issues with that.
I'm not overly concerned, and I wouldn't change the language or the proposal to
Okay.
accommodate any small concern I have. It does happen occasionally where a vessel gets placed in such a position and encroaches over the prolongation of the property line. Typically, that is worked out between the adjoining property owners,
Okay.
and it never gets to us. In the few cases where it does get to us, we do enforce it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners before I open it up to the public? Commissioner Sperchek?
One other question to Pete. I guess it's a rock bottom, a shale bottom of the bay. Do you have to drill down through, are you going to go through sand, or are you going to go through bedrock? I'm just kind of
It's typically shale in Carnation Cove, and I'm sorry, Pete, but typically you would use a steel pipe pile generally for this part of the harbor. Pete, do you have anything more to add?
yeah, so that's all steel pilings because it has a Monterey shale, and it's usually about 6 to 8 feet below the sand, and we drive the pipes to refuse them. I mean, they don't go into it very far,
Okay.
4 or 5 feet, but that's what happens.
Thank you.
Open it up for public comments at this time.
Adam Leverance, I'm going to do some quoting from memory, so I hope you'll forgive me. I think I've made clear that I think the standard for dock extensions should be the federally designated pier head line beyond which no structures are to be built. This clearly falls within that, so it looks like that is compliant. The exception I make is for things that were constructed prior to the establishment of those lines or where it's completely unfeasible. I'm sure Mr. Swift knows, although this body doesn't look at overwater coverage, the Coastal Commission does. Sometimes they have concerns about increases in square footage for eelgrass and things like that, and that plays heavily into their analysis. Also quoting from memory, I just want to again make note, I think it was 2 meetings ago, Chair Beer said Newport Harbor is a totally built out harbor. There's no additional room to expand into, mooring extensions, grant permit space to people that others don't have access to, including kayakers, paddlers, sculls, I think, stand-up boards. And again, I don't want to see hypocrisy. You'll be gone soon. I hope the hypocrisy goes with you. Thank you.
Chair Beer, members of the commission, my name is Jim Mosher. First comment, I'm very pleased to see that the commission, as it's been doing recently, is so carefully documenting what it's actually permitting, which is clearly different than happened 30 years ago, when the documentation of what had been approved was not clear at all. I would not suggest a change to the resolution, but I think one of the special conditions of approval, number 9, might be rephrased. I don't think that would require changing the resolution, but Chris could maybe change the language of that. This is just dealing with the question of encroaching outside of the property lines, and the way it's currently phrased, it says the side property lines extend in the water along their same bearing. Vessels shall not encroach upon the neighbor's property on either side. My problem with that is the neighbor doesn't actually have any property on either side. What we're trying to protect and not encroach to, it may be to protect their view from the side or something, but it's actually public water there. So my question is, instead of referring to the neighbor's property, since they have no property there, why not just quote the passage in the Title 17 that this is trying to enforce? It would actually be shorter. All you have to say, boats berthed at the pier shall not extend beyond the prolongation of the side property lines of the properties to which the pier is connected. Then it says nothing about who is owning the water to the side, and it's clearly not the neighbor's property. So I would suggest just quoting the Title 17 rather than trying to rephrase it ineptly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. Additional public comments?
Sandy managed mooring A193, liveaboard permit for 15 years. And I object to the fact that this commission has just spent 30 minutes on a residential pier, but you have not addressed the discrimination in fees that the state has asked for a recommendation by July.
Ma'am, this doesn't pertain to this issue. Those types of comments need to be held for public comments, which we absolutely welcome you to do. So I need to ask you to refrain from continuing this.
Wouldn't the pier person need to know what they're going to be charged? I would ask that this is withheld until the meeting with the state in July.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Anything additional at this point? Anything additional? Well, I will entertain a motion from anyone.
I'll go ahead and give it a shot here, but Chris, what do you think of Mr. Mosher's comments as it relates to the defining of number 9 in the resolution?
That works for me. I could not recite that chapter and verse specifically, but we would go back to the minutes.
Okay.
And look at the
It's
code. And I could
just kind of matching the language of Title 17, which probably is a good idea.
Easy enough. I can do that for number 9
Okay.
if the commission approves that.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Harbor Commission approves the dock reconstruction, or the proposed dock reconstruction here, that it's exempt from CEQA, that there is an additional length restriction where the boat cannot exceed the dock, what would we say, 8 feet?
8 feet
8 feet?
beyond the...
But beyond at the end of the dock. And what am I missing?
May
I would say one thing, if I may, is that being really specific, item number 8.
I have some proposed language.
Yeah, because you had said be specific, so all you need to do is, at the end of that first line is a distance of, I'm just gonna get 8 feet and delete the rest.
May I make a suggestion?
You may.
It's almost exactly what you just said, but I'm going to be specific. Vessels, I'm going to leave the language the same. Vessels may not extend bayward beyond the end of the fingers by a distance of more than 8 feet maximum.
Works for me.
It's easy on the fly, and so if that would be part of the motion of what I just read.
Correct.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Go to vote.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item 7.1. Review and approve recommended Harbor Commission objectives for 2026. And the Harbor Commission objectives, ad hoc committee periodically reviews updates to the commission objectives. In late 2025, the ad hoc committee revised the objectives to better align with the commission's goals for Newport Harbor. In April of this year, the subcommittee presented the proposed objectives for 2026 and assigned a chair to each functional area within the objectives. So throughout 2026, commissioners will be assigned to each specific objective, and if approved, the recommended 2026 objectives will be forwarded to the City Council for review and consideration. I don't know if there's any specific staff report for this. I'll ask the harbor master, seeing none. I'll bring it back as the chair to that subcommittee. Just to reiterate, we presented at the last meeting a proposal for what those objectives would look like. Had a lot of public input, commissioner input, and we have now a draft that's been presented, which is substantially similar to what was presented last month. However, we have included the respective commissioners that have either offered and accepted to chair those functional areas, with the exception of one that we actually assigned while he was gone, Commissioner Williams. I just want to verify that you're okay being assigned the chair of Functional Area 3.
I appreciate you saving time today and assigning me to that. Thank you.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And we don't necessarily have to assign any of these specific objectives to the commissioners right now. I think that with this being finalized,